on Friday, you mentioned that you'd like to see New York City, some of this get a renter's credit in the budget. I was wondering if you could clarify that for me, if you don't mind, and also how much would the average renter be getting, you think, or ideally, what would you like to see?
On the Senate resolution, Zach, now again, remember, both of these resolutions, with all due respect to my colleagues in the legislature, these resolutions are really political documents to make a political point. I always like to tease them afterwards that the numbers don't even add up when you add up the numbers in the resolution, right? It is the Christmas wish list. You just put everything down on the list, and somehow the numbers add up at the end. But when in the Senate resolution, they eliminated what we call a renter's credit and the circuit breaker, and they used the money for other things. When we're talking about a homeowner's tax credit, that's largely outside the city, New York City. The balance was that in New York City, we had a renter's credit and a circuit breaker. If you eliminate those, as the Senate does, there's virtually no tax relief for the city, which I said was a non-starter. In terms of what the average return is, I would ask Bob Megna if he knows off the top of his head.
On the renter's credit, it depended on family size and income, so it could go anywhere from $150 to over $300.
Governor, you've said in this room, I believe, that some mandate relief proposals that have been talked about long time were a non-starter. So you finding that this proposal is more or less of a non-starter with legislators and officials than some of those mandate relief proposals? Can you talk about why you're pushing this side for relief as opposed to the other thing?
Because, Jimmy, we've been pushing both sides, right? There's two answers to the puzzle. We have 10,500 local governments. How do we reduce the cost? Answer A is the state should give the local governments more money. Okay, you can call that mandate relief, call it whatever you want, but the answer is basically the state should give more money to the local governments. First, that assumes that the state has more money, or that the state has a service that they're now asking the localities to provide, that we're willing to say you no longer have to provide this service, but you still get to keep the money. So it's a difficult arena. Within that, we've done more than ever before. That Medicaid pickup, Jimmy, is just more than has ever been done before. So if the 10,500 governments say, well, tell the state to do more, we have. Now let's look at it from the other end of the equation, which is, are the 10,500 doing everything they can to remove any waste and duplication? And some will say, yeah, we work very cooperatively, but if you talk to them as much as I have, and you go across the state, you will see there has been virtually no organized, consistent convening of jurisdictions going through a rigorous exercise to come up with shared services. We're not even talking about consolidation, just shared services. What purchasing can we cooperate with? What employee relations can we cooperate with? What back office functions can we cooperate and share services? So we've been pushing very hard from one side. We also want to now push on the other side. And the push on the other side, again, Jimmy, it's common sense. It's not like you need divine inspiration to come up with this idea that there are 300 governments in one county. It would be nice if they talked and they cooperated.
To what extent, though, Governor, is that number, the 300, or instead of kind of, or if you have the numbers for each government? I know that some of these are special districts that are within the town and that are essentially accounting districts. You know, my property tax bill, I live in a sewer district, I live in a water district, but they're nothing. They are my town. It's just an accounting mechanism.
Well, if it's just an accounting mechanism, then why do I have to pay for the accounting mechanism and the accountant and the audit and the bill? Now,
The town contends I don't. The town says, just do it. The town says,
well, somebody's paying for it. See, somebody's paying for it. What they're saying to you, Jimmy, sometimes what a town will do is set up other districts as taxing entities. So you have your town tax, and then you have this special district tax, which is different. I understand. It's still an administration of an organization, right, and a bureaucracy. There's still a cost to it. And forget just the special districts, there's just a lot of levels of all these districts, you know. You see the slide with the garbage districts and the lighting districts, et cetera. So the savings. To finish the rest of the second part of your first question, is this easy with the legislature? No, this is not easy with the legislature. There are not a lot of things that are easy with the legislature, I might add. As County Executive Mangano said, the tough ones, the real issues, are always difficult, by definition, because if they were easy, they would have been resolved a long time ago. If the property tax cap was easy, it wouldn't take 20 years to pass it. If pension reform was easy, it wouldn't take, 7 quarts of blood to pass it. If this was easy, getting local governments to cooperate, this would have been done 20 years ago. And this is running into the apathy of the bureaucracy. And these are all local elected officials, and they're all saying, why are you making me go through this exercise? And that's the pushback they're getting. I have no doubt about it.
But really, the point here for you to ensure that, the Assembly's plan, for example, says, okay, we'll do the tax freeze, we'll just cover the cost. There's no back end, like you're saying, forcing the local governments to consolidate or to cut the tax levy. Is that the key issue here for you in any plan? Something that ensures the local governments are going to have to share services in order for residents to get these tax breaks?
Joe, the point is to have the local governments go through the point is first to recognize the problem, okay? We have too many governments, we really do. Point two, to get them to start to work together in a way they haven't done thus far. Well, we do coordinate, I know. Let's do it on a more rigorous basis, more creative, more aggressive, and to identify actual savings so the tax comes down. I don't want to freeze taxes for 2 years, just to freeze taxes for 2 years, and then in year 3, the person falls off a cliff. Because look at what you would have done. We cover the 2% increase in year 1, we cover the 2% increase in year 2, that's now a 4% increase. In year 3, it's another 2, that's 6. And all of a sudden, the person gets handed a 6% increase, in essence, once the freeze is over. That would be terrible. That would be terrible. So it's not about the freeze. It's the freeze to incentivize the cut. It's the freeze to set up the cut. In the case of these 2 counties, it's going to be a cut of 2 to anticipate the cut from the cooperation.
If the local government has already taken steps to cut costs through sharing services or consolidation, should that credit them towards this tax cut or this freeze?
Look, conceptually, my point is we have to do more. If you want to say, well, we've already brought our taxes down and we don't have a problem with our property taxes because we did everything we need to do, then fine. But I don't think that's what they're saying. They're saying we did a little bit, You have to lose 20 pounds. Well, I already lost 5. All right, there's another 15 to go. Well, I think I did 5. Yeah, I think you need to do 15, So it depends on your point of view. If a locality says, I did what I have to do, we did the streamlining, our property taxes are no problem. Fine. Perfect body weight. Great.
For the local elected officials here, do you have a specific example of a special taxing district within your area, within your jurisdiction, that you would like to see done away with because it's costing property taxpayers so much money? Or is there one that you've already dealt with?
That's a bad question. Don't do that to done away with. It sounds like you want to hurt someone or some entity.
But to follow the question, are there other districts that are actually, that you've done away with that we've seen savings from?
Where can you find savings?
We have districts, we have water districts, and we have a water district and we have a sewer district. Either way, you have to cover the costs for those town services. But we have tasked each of those departments with making major cuts and reductions, which they have done. They continue to do that, and we continue to streamline in that area. And the goal right now, because of the fact that we have cut back so much, we can't go backwards and just have the costs keep rising. The real work now is on maintenance, maintaining, and we have found a lot of ways that we could cut the costs and save the taxpayers money. But it's an ongoing type of assignment. As the governor says, it's not something you can do for a little while and then okay, now we're at that ideal weight, so to speak, so we can relax. It's a way of life. It's a whole change in the paradigm of operating government, and to me, it has to be ongoing. And as the governor said, this is not an easy topic for any official, but on the same token, as a local leader, and I'm sure others hear it, the main comment that we get from our residents is, please keep our property taxes down, because we want to stay living in the town. So please do whatever you have to do to keep our property taxes down. That's their main concern.
But would eliminating the district per se, that would...
If you eliminate, I mean, logically, you have to pay for the water system, the sewer system. You have to be able to collect a fee some way for the usage, which goes back into their budget, their operating budget. So one way or another, you have to provide that service, and that service is costly. So whether you do it through your own property tax or you do it through the district fee, it's the same thing. I mean, they have to be able to pay for, the residents have to be able to pay for that service. So the real issue is, how do you maintain that service in the most efficient manner and in a cost-effective way? And that's the ongoing work that takes place.
I think it's also important to highlight here that there's real opportunity. People think that somehow it's all been maxed out, okay? I remember when I came into office, we entered into shared service initiatives with a whole host of towns from a highway perspective, saved a significant amount of money. There's public-private partnerships on this pathway as well. We saved $23.7 million in reduction in government spending in Ulster County, the largest in our history. So there's real opportunity to be able to move through this process. It's not easy. It's contentious. It's all of those things. But it's never been more important.
I want to just...
Is there a special taxing district within Ulster County?
See, I think what the governor has said here is critically important. This is an opportunity for a conversation. This is when you bring together all of the municipal leaders in your community and start to talk about the best ways to be able to maximize this process. In our case, we're talking about a 2% reduction in taxes for the people of Ulster County. That's fantastic. By the way, I was very excited not to be on that list in the beginning.
Can I have a little bit to talk about the unemployment mandates? Have they gone down the last couple of years? A lot of you.
Yeah, Pat, can you, the ones in the county executive just wanted to follow?
I was just saying, if the service needs to be achieved, for instance, if you're plowing roads, if the county took off over all the roads for the towns, the cities, the villages, you'd need more people. So it's not necessarily the patch that they wear on their arm, if it's a county, town, city, village patch, if that service needs to be performed. The key is, under the governor's plan, is there's ways to work together with those 5 entities to reduce costs and become more efficient and save real property tax dollars, such as buying the salt collectively, or buying the sand, or the brine, or the equipment, or the maintenance, or the administration. For instance, we have a computer system that tells us where all our trucks are. Maybe that, whether the plow's up and down, or whether the sand is on or off. Maybe that technology can be shared. There's a real opportunity to save dollars in the performance of the services that our residents clearly want. Many of our residents, a majority of them, want certain services and identify with their village, and they don't necessarily want to be rid of it. They want, though, to have real property tax relief. This plan, the governor's plan, gives you an opportunity to move the discussion from who's going to do what to how are we going to save money and put more money back in our taxpayers' pockets. And that's what this achieves.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Taylor law make a difference as well? Because we keep hearing that the unions have a leg up in the bargaining process because of the Taylor law, Triborough. And this, government is a people business, and you're talking a large percentage is salary benefits.
Yeah, Rick, they've been talking about the Taylor law for 20 years. Some people say it gives the unions a leg up. The unions say it was in exchange for them not being able to strike. They can't strike, and the local government can't take their steps away. But just to get back to echo what the county executive said, Nick, when you pose the question, well, what entity should go away? That's not the question we're posing, right? We're not saying eliminate entities. It's shared services, it's cooperation. You have silos and fiefdoms within these governments, and each one is a self-contained silo, and they're doing everything they have to do within that silo. And we're saying, is there a cross-cut, or shouldn't there be a cross-cut to find functional efficiencies and economies of scale? Do we all have to do our own purchasing? We're buying 400 vehicles a year. Instead of everyone buying and pricing and negotiating their own vehicles, why don't we buy them collectively and we'll get a better cost because our scale is going to go up? County executives point about snow plowing. Why don't we figure out how we can do it? Do you really need to buy your own plows and man your own plows? It's close enough to this jurisdiction. Maybe they can take over that responsibility. It doesn't happen because they're different entities. I'm my own town. I'm my own village. I'm the head of the lighting district. And each one is self-contained. I understand that. That's the culture of government. That's the culture that we have developed. How do you change the culture and inject an efficiency and an economy of scale and a cooperation ethic that doesn't now exist? And we've tried all sorts of ways for 6 years. I said, I'll give you technical assistance, I'll give you an award, you get a big plaque, the most cooperative. I passed a law, make it very easy for you to do it. None of it worked. Why? Because that's the culture that you're dealing with. So now we're saying, how about this? The people in your town can get money back in their pocket if you perform. Inverse is, if you don't perform, they're not going to get the money back in their pocket. And that may be a political issue you want to think about before you say no cavalierly. That's what this is about. But make no mistake, it is a culture change, and change is very, very hard. Now, especially in government. In the private sector, it happens. Why? Because you're forced. Jesse asked the question. New York Times, the bottom line starts to suffer, shareholders start to yell, New York Times fires people. Boop. That's what it does. Problem fixed. They also do consolidation, shared services, etc. Government doesn't have that sanction. Numbers don't work. Government says, raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes. Until when? Until you have the highest property taxes in the United States of America. And what do you keep doing? Raise them some more, raise them some more. People are leaving, raise them some more. No, you have to try a different plan. And the different plan is to attack the culture, challenge the culture, and find economies of scale, because it betrays common sense to say these 300 entities can't be any more efficient than they are. By the way, I just did this in our own government. And you have to see the resistance of every agency. I need my own purchasing unit. Why? Well, because I need to be able to buy things when I need them to be able to buy them, and I buy special things. You don't really need your own purchasing unit. It's more convenient, gives you more control, but you don't really need your own purchasing unit. We're going to have a centralized purchasing unit. But very disruptive, very hard to change.
Last question. Can any of the county executives, you talk about economic tax, a lot of times say it's unfunded state mandates. Have the unfunded state mandates gotten better? Or
They have. No, don't forget what we're talking about here. This has happened over a long period of time. But the governor's Medicaid relief plan has been significant for all of the counties across all of New York State. Okay? We have collectively saved an enormous amount of money. Now, do we have more work to do? No question about it. And that's on every front. Because really, it always comes back to the same thing. We're talking about putting money back in people's pocket. We're talking about not having the highest property taxes in the entire nation. And in the private sector, by the way, if nobody's trying to be more like you, there's a problem. And so nobody I know in the entire United States of America is trying to get to the 10,500 municipality mark.
Would you accept any pressure without this? This is your time of maximum pressure. If they don't accept your plan as is, just not accept.
It goes back to, I can't remember, it was, I think it was Joe's point. The Assembly's comeback is just do the tax freeze, but don't make them cut. That makes no sense to me, because that's not the point. The point is not to provide a 2-year temporary freeze. It's to incentivize the cut. So that's the point of the cut to me, the point of the freeze. It's a necessity for this to work. It doesn't work without it. Makes no sense to me to freeze taxes for 2 years if you're not going to cut them.
Governor, on a different topic here, did you accept the nomination of the Independence Party? You took it in 2010. I think you actually did it before you took the Democratic nomination. People talk about this.
You know, it's a little early for politics, Jimmy. In political season, we'll talk about that.
Do you agree with Jay Jacobs, who was the state party chairman for a while, that the Independence Party essentially exists just to benefit itself and benefit the people who run it?
I don't, I don't consider myself an expert on Nassau County politics.
I'll jump in on Nassau. You know, look, this is such a joke. If you look at this, first of all, it's just a sour grapes. The guy has lost election after election. He's lost the county executive. He's lost the comptroller. He's lost the seats in the legislature each year, and now he's lost the city of Glen Cove, which elected an independent candidate. When Jay Jacobs was getting the independent nominations for his candidates, it was a great party. And now because he's lost some in the way he's conducted himself politically at the Independence Party, has balked at the way that he controls certain candidates, now he's attacked the party, which I think is inherently wrong when you have a major party as the only complainant against a minor party. There's something wrong with that that should be looked at the get-go. But this is nothing more than petty politics at an absurd level from a failed leader that likes to bully people. And that's what he likes to do, is bully people. He's known for the slap lawsuit in his own personal affairs, and he bullies people politically. And now he's trying to bully a party, and because he gets some favorable press in a local media, it gets sensationalized. But the fact of the matter is, if you step back from this situation, does anybody think a major party, can you imagine this, the Republican Party called for the end of the Conservative Party, or the Republican Party calls for the end of the Independence Party? Everybody would be up in arms, and they should be, because the major parties should not be influencing the minor parties. And that's what makes our system free for all those that are seeking endorsements to go and meet with these parties and see whether they adopt or don't adopt the platform.
Do you anticipate endorsing Governor Cuomo? You talked about your relationship.
Well, as a wise man once said, there's a time for the political season, and it's really not now.
I said that too.
I met you.
On the issue of charter schools, and kind of to repeat Mike's question a little bit, would you accept a budget that doesn't offer the protections that you outlined last week on charter schools?
You know, well, I accept, we've been at this long enough together. I don't negotiate the budget in public, but suffice it to say that I believe charter schools need to be protected. Their fear, writ large, is if you have a city that says, I don't want to have any more charter schools, that a city could basically stop the creation of more charter schools by limiting the location and the funding. So I think that would be problematic. I want to make sure the charter school movement can continue, can grow, and has that support in every city in the state. That can be done in the budget, or it can be done as a normal bill.
Critics have said that this is gubernatorial control of New York City schools. What did you make of that criticism?
It's kind of silly, I think.
He did Mayor Bloomberg's, the ones that he approved, the free charter schools he approved, and you believe the state needs to protect those. Mayor Blasio recently moved to block their expansion. Does the state need to step in here, in your opinion?
I don't know, Zach, on the specifics of co-locations and on the people who Nick is talking to. I'm not getting into specifics of this school should be here, this school shouldn't be here. I don't know. I know system-wide, we can't be in a position where a city can say, there will be no more charter schools, either by saying it that way, there will be no more charter schools, or saying, I'm not going to locate any charter schools, and I'm not going to provide any funding for location for charter schools, right? Which would be just a specific way of getting to the same end. So that, I want to make sure that the system has that protection. But the specifics, I would leave up to localities. I don't know on the specific.
Governor, the city council speaker over the weekend sent a tax tweet, I guess is the best way
A
to
tack tweet, is that a new kind of tweet, special tweet? Does it come over a different device? I want to send an attack tweet. Send an attack tweet to Ken Lovett right now, as a matter of fact. It comes across in red or something like that with a little dagger.
If not, what's your reaction to what she wrote?
I have not spoken to her about it, no.
Governor, the Assembly and Senate are convening their joint budget committees talking about transparency and openness and working in a bipartisan way. You've said in the past the budget used to be a flashpoint for dysfunction. Now it's a transparent process. If it's a transparent process, why is it still negotiated behind closed doors?
Well, just because something is done behind closed doors doesn't mean the process isn't transparent, right? You can't do everything in public view always and have frank, candid, meaningful conversations. I don't know if you were here when they used to have the leaders' meetings in the public in this room and they were televised. I mean, it was a silly theater that accomplished virtually nothing, with leaders reading a scripted statement and then everybody looking at everyone, you know. So that didn't work. This is a transparent process. You know my position, you know the Senate's position, you know the Assembly's position, you know their resolutions, you know where we agree, you know where we disagree. We've been talking all through this press conference about areas of disagreement. You know what my position is, you know what their position is. That's all called transparency. We have a meeting, they walk out, you put a microphone in their face. What did he say? What did she say? What did you say? That's transparency. I was much more transparent than it's ever been. That I can tell you. No, I wasn't talking about politics. Actually, I was talking about not talking about politics.
There's a difference.
Lieutenant Governor Duffy, do you anticipate having him on the ticket in November?
That would be one of those political questions that I'm not here to talk about.
Governor, on the Dream Act, you said good sign if it passes, but is it a priority for you?
Yes.
Are you pushing for it like you put it for same-sex marriage?
Yes. Been multiple conversations.
If there's an expanded bill for medical marijuana,
Depends on what the bill is.
Expanding more than what you thought?
Depends how, Pat, how, why, what, where, what conditions, what controls.
Is it something you're open to discussing as part of the budget process?
I'm open to discussing repainting the building. You know, I'll discuss anything.
There is a bill in the legislature for medicinal marijuana, Governor. It's the one that seems to be gaining steam. Just on that one, the Godfrey Savino bill.
I haven't seen it.
Governor, to clarify an earlier question, do you think major party candidates should shun independent party nominations?
This is a political question, and we'll discuss it politically vis-à-vis me. And in general, I think people make their own decisions. Okay, guys, thank you very much.